Changes are coming to the way public school-based pre-kindergarten education is going to be delivered in the towns that comprise the Taconic and Green School District. But it's still too early to tell how it will all play out. Under Act 166, legislation passed in 2014, public money is available to all parents of all 3- and 4-year-olds to cover 10 hours of pre-kindergarten instruction for both public school-based programs and those offered by qualified independent providers who meet state regulations. The difference is that for parents of children in the private independent system, they have to pay out of pocket for the additional hours they want their children to have beyond the 10 hours. In the public school pre-K, those additional hours are covered by public tax dollars. But with the Taconic and Green now committed to providing as much equal access to all of its students as possible, the program offered at MEMS will change from 5 to 4 days or 2 two-day programs, the idea being to increase the number of students who can attend there coming from the other towns in the district, such as Dorset, Sunderland, Landgrove, Londonderry, Peru, and Weston. And it will be limited to 4-year-olds because of the anticipated increase in enrollment requests. The changes prompted a discussion at the meeting of the Taconic and Green School Board on February 5th.
The 4-day-a-week program puts a real strain on working families. The change from 5 days to 4 days creates a demand in our already really strained daycare community to provide daycare for these students on Fridays for working families.
Afterwards, we talked with the Taconic and Green School Superintendent, Jacqueline Wilson, who explained why they simply couldn't go ahead and hire another pre-K teacher and solve the problem that way.
So the one we're really talking about we're going to see a significant change, is the school-based public pre-K provider that was housed out of Manchester Elementary Middle School. So that program, since 2010, and that was established pre-Act 166, has operated as a full-day program following the regular school calendar that students in grades K to 8 follow. So the problem that presented, as we are now in a merged district, is that we had some students, some of our 4-year-olds, it was primarily 4-year-olds, so that's what I'm going to talk about today, because that's who we opened it up to. We had some at-risk 3-year-olds, it was primarily 4-year-olds. That we had some students within the same district that were having access to 35 hours a week of public pre-K, and while all other students had access to 10 hours a week of public pre-K service. So that's a really pretty significant inequity that was available to families and children within this newly merged district. Our articles of agreement under Taconic and Green allowed us to operate as we had for 1 year. So we're coming in on the end of our first year of operation, and we were able to operate as we've operated, but we knew we had to tackle this, that we had to bring more equity, that was a pretty significant inequity that could no longer exist in a merged district. So that's what we're tackling right now. And it's fairly complicated because someone might say, well, the logical thing to do is just add another teacher, open that up, have more kids, that could take advantage of that in that school setting. We don't have the authority, the board doesn't have the authority to do that. To expand a pre-K program in a school that's school-based, you have to prove to the Agency of Human Services and the Agency of Education that there is not enough capacity within your community to serve 3- and 4-year-olds in a public preschool setting. And that's not the case for us. We have several licensed private providers that have capacity to serve these children. And again, when we're talking about capacity, we need to define that as the 10 hours, not the 35 hours. So we've been Manchester voters for years, for almost a decade now, made the decision to fund at a higher, to budget for at a higher level than was required to provide more hours of pre-K for its children. We can't turn around and expand and add a teacher without proving that now there's not enough capacity to serve our kids in the Taconic and Green District, and there is enough capacity.
If most families wind up choosing the 4-day option, that may result in a lottery system being put in place, or defaulting to a 2-day system. It will depend on the level of interest out there, and the Manchester Elementary Middle School will be holding pre-kindergarten registration on March 13th and March 14th, which will give a clearer picture of it all. Pre-kindergarten education has been offered at MEMS since 2010. The North Shire and Bennington County currently have several other pre-K independent providers, like the North Shire Day School, Happy Days, Stepping Stones, and the Early Childhood Center in Shaftesbury. We talked with Allison Gribbs, one of the co-directors of the Early Childhood Center, about the challenges they face.
We face a lot of challenges. Currently, the Child Care Financial Assistance Program through the state that helps families who are struggling financially pay for childcare is using market rates from a long time ago, and they don't cover the full cost of care in today's world. So we're finding that either parents have to supplement the difference with a copay, or we're finding scholarship monies to help supplement students' tuitions. And that can be a struggle. At some point we run out of scholarship funds and we can't do that any longer. And some families really can't afford to make a copayment. We also struggle because tuition doesn't necessarily cover the full cost of care. We then struggle to pay our teachers an adequate salary. And so oftentimes teachers will leave to go to a public school situation where they can get better pay and better benefits, even though they're doing the same job.
Supporters of more early education and pre-kindergarten opportunities are hoping that a bill currently under consideration in the legislature, known as H-194, might help.
H-194 would make a huge difference, I think, in the world of childcare. It would increase the subsidy or the financial assistance rates to meet current market rates. So more families would benefit from that, and we would benefit from that because we would be getting reimbursed at a higher weekly rate. So that would bring more money into our program so that we could pay our teachers better. And then there are also some parts of the bill that would help teachers repay student loans or help them get their bachelor's degrees in early childhood education, and also give tax credits to people who are working in early childhood education, which would be great. We can use everything we could get. And it also, the bill incentivizes businesses to invest in early childhood by supplementing childcare slots or making donations to childcare centers, and then getting tax credits for doing those things that would so greatly help us. So all around, it looks like a great bill.
Another factor in play is the ongoing discussion about the aging of Vermont and the stresses young families are under with small children when both parents are working. Navigating pre-K schedules with work schedules is not always easy or even possible. If Vermont offered an expanded pre-kindergarten assistance plan, more younger families might move here, or stay here, the thinking goes. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.